What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another awesome episode of the Fandom Show. I'm really excited about what we're going to be doing today. I think it's going to be a whole heck of a lot of fun. I also have a special announcement at the end of the episode, so you're going to want to stay tuned for that. For today's feature, we're going back in time. Way back in time. Millions of years back in time to when dinosaurs roamed the earth. That's right, today we're looking at everybody's favorite dino franchise, Jurassic Park. This is one of my personal favorite fandoms, so I think this is going to be a really fun ride.
It has dinosaurs in it, so how can it not be fun?
The story of Jurassic Park begins with a writer by the name of Michael Crichton. You've probably heard of him. He's one of the most famous sci-fi writers of all time who sold millions and millions of books, many of which have been adapted into films. Now, what you might not know is he was actually also a Harvard-educated doctor. He had put this training to good use when he co-created the television series ER. Jurassic Park had its origins in a story that Crichton wrote way back in 1983 about a graduate student who recreates a dinosaur. He showed it to a group of people that he trusted to review his stories, and they actually didn't like it. But the reason they didn't like it is because the original story was told from the point of view of a young child, and they felt that that didn't really work. Crichton subsequently rewrote the novel from an adult's point of view, and we got the legendary story that we all know and love today.
Personally, I'm a huge Michael Crichton fan. I would recommend almost any of his books. They're that good.
So, the first draft of Jurassic Park was written in 1983. The book went through a number of changes and revisions and was actually not published until 1989. Not long after it was published, movie studios came calling. Eventually, Michael Crichton opted to sell the rights to Steven Spielberg because he trusted him to make a really good movie, which, I mean, duh, it's Steven Spielberg, why wouldn't you do that? Another interesting fact, Michael Crichton actually co-wrote the script for the movie. Now, the movie and the book are very different, but they're basically two different versions, if you will, of the same story. They both follow the same general plot line, but a lot of the characterizations are different, and some characters aren't even there at all. For a couple of examples, in the book, John Hammond is kind of an arrogant, cutthroat capitalist who isn't very likable. And yet in the movie, as played by Richard Attenborough, he became much more of a genial old man, although still a little bit cutthroat. Another difference is that in the book, Dr. Wu had a very large role. In the movie, his role was reduced to one scene, and he didn't really have much of an impact on the story.
He did, however, go on to have a much bigger and much cooler role in 2016's Jurassic World. More on that in our next episode.
Also, the book featured characters that weren't even included in the movie. The character of Donald Gennaro in the movie was actually a blend of two characters from the book. So there were quite a few changes that got made there, but that's what you got to do when you make books into movies. Michael Crichton himself once estimated that about 30% of the book made it into the movie, which is actually about right, since most books have way more than you could ever fit into a single movie.
This movie was such a cool part of my childhood that the poster still gives me goosebumps.
The Jurassic Park movie was released in June of 1993 and, as most of us know, went on to become a colossal hit. In fact, adjusted for inflation, the movie made $1.7 billion and stands as the fifth highest grossing movie of all time. Wow. Fun fact, it was also the first movie that I ever saw in a drive-in theater, and yes, that was really, really cool.
I mean, come on. How could this not be entertaining?
With the massive success of Jurassic Park, Crichton was pressured by fans to write a sequel. At first, he resisted because he didn't write sequels. In fact, up to that point, he had never written one before. But the popularity of Jurassic Park, combined with some prodding from Steven Spielberg, who wanted to make another movie, convinced Crichton to sign on and write a sequel to Jurassic Park. Thus, we got in 1995, The Lost World. Interesting fact, The Lost World, the main character is Ian Malcolm. Of course, we all know Ian Malcolm. That was played by Jeff Goldblum in the original Jurassic Park film. He's probably one of the most popular characters in the entire franchise. He was actually killed off in the first book, because Crichton didn't know that he was writing a sequel. However, when he wrote the sequel, he actually retconned it to where Ian Malcolm was alive because he wanted to use him again. Pretty cool.
If you tell me that you knew what chaos theory was before you met this guy, I am not going to believe you.
Well, generally not as well reviewed as the original Jurassic Park, the book did become a reasonable success, and Steven Spielberg turned that one into a movie as well. Unlike the first book, which featured the story of a dinosaur amusement park gone mad, the second book features a new island of dinosaurs, but instead of wanting to build a park there are two rival teams, one which is trying to catalog the dinosaurs for scientific purposes, the other is trying to steal them for monetary purposes. This aspect was largely maintained for the film, however the antagonists were changed.
Fun fact, the original book cover didn't include the words Jurassic Park, but they were added to the movie poster so audiences would know right away that this was a sequel.
The film Jurassic Park: The Lost World was released on May the 23rd, 1997, and for 4 years held the record for the biggest Memorial Day weekend opening ever. Like the book, it was not as well reviewed by critics as was the original film, but it did go on to make $966 million adjusted for inflation. Not too freaking bad.
But the T-Rex stomping on San Diego Godzilla style? That was kind of bad.
4 years later, in 2001, we repeated Jurassic Park 3. This was an original film not based on any book or Michael Crichton's story. Also, Steven Spielberg did not direct. He was a producer, but he didn't have a huge role in the overall film. Director duties were handed over to Joe Johnston, who had been part of the crew of the previous two movies. Jurassic Park 3 opened to mixed to negative reviews and is generally considered the worst movie in the Jurassic Park franchise. It's also the lowest grossing, having made only $527 million adjusted. The failure of Jurassic Park 3 and intervening events led the series to go dormant for 15 years until 2016's Jurassic World. On our next episode, we're going to look at that transition, see what happened in the intervening years, and take a look at how Jurassic World resurrected Jurassic Park into a worldwide dinosaur phenomenon.
I don't really like the movie, but I do really like this poster.
Also, really fun fact, when you visualize dinosaurs, the creatures you're probably thinking of are inspired by Jurassic Park. In fact, more modern research has shown us that dinosaurs acted and looked very differently than the creatures from the movies. But because the creatures from the movies, what we've all grown up with as dinosaurs, they remain the popular depictions of the creatures, despite the frustrations of scientists.
With all due respect to science, these guys are just really cool.
Okay, and that wraps up our first tour through Jurassic Park. I hope you'll be back for the second episode that we're going to have on this subject. It will be out in just a few weeks' time. I did say at the start of this episode that I was going to have a major announcement. Unfortunately, it's not quite as major as I thought it would be. Let me explain. What I was going to announce is that I was going to be attending Pensacon this year, which is a big Comic-Con festival in Pensacola, Florida. It's held around the end of every February. Unfortunately, real life got in the way, and it's just not going to work this year, which does kind of bum me out. I was quite excited at the possibility of going, but I get it. Life happens, and this just wasn't meant to happen. So I do plan on hitting a Comic-Con up at some point this year. Not sure where, not sure when yet, but I'll definitely keep you posted because I'm really stoked at the possibility of maybe doing a live episode from a Comic-Con event. So that's my goal for the end of the year. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it happens. Stay tuned to this for our next Jurassic Park episode and more. As always on the Fandom Show, thanks for watching.